Hello! In this video tutorial, I will consider the basics of working with the AB color grid in 3D LUT Creator. If you do not know how the color grids work, you can watch the video called Working Principle of AB and CL Color Grids in 3D LUT Creator that you can find on our YouTube channel. Briefly, the color of the image is tied to the grid. If I bend the grid, the color will also change. The neutral colors are in the center of the grid. The distance from the center represents the color saturation. The color hue changes when moving around the center of the grid. The AB grid can be circle or square. The grid size can be changed if you want to make precise color correction. By default, the grid points are not fixed, and if I move one of them, the others also move. The active point becomes pinned. That is, its position will not change if I move the other points. All grid points can be pinned to avoid this effect on other colors. You can do it by clicking the Pin All button. Let's try to change the color of the sky. If you need to know the colors that belong to the chosen point, you need to hold down the Alt key and click on the point. A mask will appear in the image window. It highlights the colors that belong to that point. Often, in order to change a color, you need to move several points at once, so let's consider how to select a group of points. First, you can use a selection frame. Click on the free space on the color plane and drag the selection frame over the points. To add or remove points from the selection, you should click on them with the Control key held down. Also, while holding down the Control key, you can add new groups of points with the selection frame. You can also select points from the keyboard. Select one point with the mouse, hold down the Control and Shift keys, and select the other points using the arrows on the keyboard. On the Mac, you will need to press the Command key also. You can deselect the points by selecting another point or stretch the selection frame on any empty area of the grid. The selected point or group of points can be moved using the arrows on the keyboard. To do this on the Mac, you need to press the Command key. On the AB grid, you can also work with the lightness of the color. To do this, select the desired points, hold down the Shift key, click on any point and pull up for lightening or down for darkening. The method by which the lightness will change is specified in this drop-down list. To learn more about the shape of the curves that corresponds to these modes, please watch the video called The Luminance Curve and the Brightness Slider in 3D LUT Creator that you can find on our YouTube channel. To reset the position and brightness of the selected group of points, you can click the Reset button. If there are no selected points, the whole grid will reset. When the Pin All button is active, the reset points will also be pinned to their original places. You can reset the points individually. Right-click on the point to reset it. The position and lightness of the point will be reset. The point will not be pinned. To keep the point pinned in its original position, double-click on it. To reset only the lightness of a point or group of points, you need to hold down the Shift key and right-click on it. Let's consider the tools for working with the grid. The first of them we have already used. It allows you to select a point or group of points and move them. Sometimes, when the desired color is located between 4 points, moving one of them doesn't change the color correctly, as the color is distributed to 4 points around it. Even if we work with a simple color. Let's look at an example. If I click the blue color and drag it to the red, the color patch does not get the desired color. To solve this problem, you can select the 4 points manually or use the second tool. When clicking on the image with this tool, you can select the 4 nearest points to the selected color and change it correctly. The next tool pulls the points to the color that you click. You can click on both the grid and the image. Using this tool, you can reduce the variability of hues on the image. The next tool does the opposite operation. It pushes the points away from the selected color. The last tool allows you to select all points that correspond to the colors inside the selection frame on the image. Working with all points pinned is convenient if you change the color in the narrow color range. Remember that the more local your color correction is, the less universal LUT will be. Let's unpin all the points by clicking the Pin All button again. Now let's try to repaint the sky again. To do this, you need to pin the points that are on the border of the sky's color range. This way, our correction does not affect the other colors. I select the group of points and pin them. To pin the selected group of points, you have to hold down the Ctrl-Alt-Shift keys and click on any of the points in the group with the mouse. Now I select the group of points that belong to the color of the sky and change their hue. To do this, I click on the digital field hue under the grid, and I move the mouse to the left or right. An easier way of doing this would be to use the circle grid. In the circle grid, the ends of the color rays and the neutral colors are fixed by default. Therefore, if I move the end of the ray, I will move all the shades of color over the entire saturation range. In this case, I will not affect the other colors. Let's try to repaint the sky. I select the ends of the 3 rays and rotate them around the center of the grid. Let's consider how to select the points on the circle grid from the keyboard. If I select one point, then I press the Ctrl and Shift keys. Then, by pressing the up arrow on the keyboard, I will move along the color ray in the direction of increasing the color saturation, and pressing the down arrow, I will move towards the neutral. On the Mac, you will also need to hold down the Command key. By pressing the right arrow, I will select points clockwise, and to the left, counterclockwise. In this way, I can select all colors at once with the same saturation. Let's, for example, increase the saturation of the desaturated colors. To do this, I select all the hues with a low saturation. And then to adjust the saturation, you need to click on the digital field Saturation under the grid and move the mouse to the right. And now I will reduce the saturation of the saturated colors. To do this, I select the saturation region, which should not be changed. Then I will select the ends of the color rays and move them towards the center of the grid. Done! Let's look at the before and after. Look at the sky, foliage, and a red box in the distance. Let's try to repaint the foliage now. Note that the green color occupies a large area of the grid from the saturated green hues to the desaturated yellow-green, which includes the grass. I select the entire range of colors and repaint them. Doing the same on the square grid will be much more difficult. Let's try to repaint the spots on the giraffe. I will pin the limits of the saturation range, for which the color of the spots does not belong. I will select the necessary points and rotate them around the center of the grid. On the AB grid, it is possible to separate the effect on the highlights and shadows of the image. Let's repaint a bright house in the distance. It's almost neutral, so I move the neutral. Since the house is bright, I will exclude the influence on the shadows and adjust the shadows highlights threshold with the slider. To visualize the shadows highlights separation, I can press down the Alt key. Compare the before and after. If desired, you can turn on the double grid and separately paint the shadows and highlights of the image. That's all. I hope that after watching this video, your AB color grid skills will increase significantly. And do not forget, to master the work with the grid, you need to practice. And do not be afraid to experiment. In 3D LUT Creator, it never gets boring. See you in the next video.